Okay, everyone, we're going to get started soon. While everybody's coming in, let me give you the rest of the story, okay? All right, everybody listening? I don't think you're listening. As people come in, I can tell you the rest of the story. You want to hear this. Some people came up to me in the break, and I got a chance to realize I didn't tell you the most important thing. All right. One of the things that happened to me personally is when I lost that weight, what I wasn't doing was taking my vitamins. You have to take your vitamins. There's nothing like getting up one morning and having a clean spot in the top of your head, okay? That's not fun. So make sure you take vitamin D. Make sure you take your fish oil for your heart. And don't forget to take vitamin B. As women, B12, that's right. You don't want that to happen. I freaked out, ran to the doctor, and she said, weren't you taking your vitamins? And I said, no, you didn't say to take the vitamins. But it's good now. So when you're doing a change in your body, you got to account for your whole body. Ask the right questions, but go to the doctor. Now, I don't expect you guys all do this, but I spent out of my pocket almost $7,000 testing. And it's something about when you invest that in yourself, you ain't going to mess up. Most of it got paid back by my insurance, but you know what the insurance company told me? Let me just show you how they really are. Because you don't have an existing condition, we can't approve those tests. So you got to kind of play with your own body. Cut out some things. Cut out some oils. Cut out all this meat unless it's lean. Because some of you will never stop eating ribeyes, and I'm one of you. But at least if you're going to eat something, get the best. Because you're putting it in the only temple you really have ownership over, and that is your body. When we start treating our bodies like the temple God gave us, it's going to be a whole lot of changes around here. A whole lot of changes around here. And I did something as a result of that I haven't never done. I started thinking about me. Have you ever done that? Where you become a priority? It is scary. It is so scary when you say in the morning, it's all about me. And then you realize what they mean when you get on the airplane and they're telling you about the oxygen. They say, give yourself the oxygen first, and then you can administer to others. That's what you have to keep in mind, ladies. Now, that I've scared you all to death and entertained some, we're going to get our program started. Okay. First, I want to welcome you all here today and give yourselves a big hand. We're going to start our Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to have Faye Coates do our pledge, and we'll be following up with our national anthem from Owen Napper. So at this time, Faye, if you'll come and do the pledge. Please stand and join us all, please.
Okay, thank you. Where? Right behind us. Oh. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, undivided, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may all be seated. Wasn't that amazing? Let's give them another hand. We want to thank Faye and we want to thank Owen for bringing this program in. At this time, we want to acknowledge some of the great sponsors, such as the Newmark Merrill Rialto Marketplace. Let's give them a hand, everyone. The Niagara Water LLC. Everybody been drinking that water. Come on, act like it now. The Bisco America Company. Give them a big hand. The Gas Company. And Southern California Edison. And I did see the representative from Edison here. Shake your hands over there. Where are you? There you go. All right. Now it gives me great pleasure. Everyone in here is a dignitary, but some people have put themselves out just a little bit more than others, okay? Put their names on signs, risked their lives to work for us. We need to acknowledge those great people. We're going to start with the fabulous, great mayor of this wonderful city, Deborah Robinson. Now, all of you, as I say your name, you don't get to come on the stage, okay? She is founder and producer of this with Barbara Magee and the rest of this great women committee. We also have the great Rialto Council member, Joe Baca Jr. And as you all are aware, Joe made the top 2 for the upcoming election. For now. Be polite. Come on now. Then we have Council Member Raphael Trillo. And we have Council Member Andy Corrales. Funny story. Andy was out there watching his wife and his daughters because he was worried about his checkbook. But you know, he's that kind of guy. While I was distracting them, they were spending their little hearts off. The secret's with me, girlfriends. And then let's give it up for the honorable, amazing, not mean-spirited, but a real leader, an organizer, Barbara Magee, your city clerk. And somebody that has become, hey, all right, okay, Barbara. Those of you that are being paid for that, she'll meet you in the back. Then we have Congressman Pete Aguilar's great representative that's just become part of the fabric around here, Mr. Kurt Lewis. And then we have the Honorable Jasmine Hall, who is Vice Chair of IUA and the very first African American on IUA. And then we got a chief in the town for those of you thinking about getting violent because you don't hear what you want to hear. We've got Mr. Joe Paulino from the San Bernardino Unified School District, their police chief, school police chief. And with that, I get to call up Mayor Robinson, who just jumped up on the stage out of cue. That's a leader for you. I ain't mad at her, okay? Let me take charge right now. They never give you a cue. They just jump up there. So let's give it up for Mayor Robinson. Hey, we got to do the buddy.
You know, good morning, everyone. And you are going to hear from Mayor Aquanetta Warren throughout the program. But I mean, she is just so dynamic. It is so wonderful to have her. Please give her a round of applause. Thank you. Please. When you talk about a person of many talents, she is definitely one of them. And also, I will safely say, a true soul sister of mine, along with, what she was telling you up here is all true. We go places, they don't worry about their clothes, they don't worry about shoes, they don't worry about umbrellas or hats or scarves. They're busy trying to look in my trunk of the car because I got it all in the trunk. I am a habitual shopper. And I must say, she's really carried the morning with the message about health. Okay, and really, truly, that's what this all began and started about 14 years ago. The truth was it was about health. Some of you will remember there was a report that Dr. Diane Woods, if any of you recall Diane, worked on and studied on the health of African Americans in the San Bernardino County. When she got finished, it really painted a dismal picture. But it was really, though it was amazing that we went to the county to say, what's the comprehensive health plan for African Americans? And we found, county said, well, we don't have one because we don't have a comprehensive health plan yet for the county. So we, women of color, were the ones that were hitting and knocking all over the chart. This is 14 years ago. We were high in everything. Diabetes, heart attack, stroke, obesity, hypertension, even HIV. We could, in the seniors, it was like, okay, what are we going to do for ourselves? So when she gives you that message and the concerns we've had and the journeys we travel, we're dead serious. I know I am. And I met with the County Department of Public Health on a very good note this past week to see how have we moved? Have we seen any improvement? And I will say, overall, there has been some improvement within our health indicators. And that has to do with a lot of health awareness and really saying what we've been saying. We're responsible. Do you know at Kaiser when they tell you you're going to thrive or they're putting that responsibility on us. And you need to know it. Recently, a friend of mine, we all realize, have you gone in and noticed that every time you go to Kaiser and you tell them about something in casual, it ends up being put into your record? And, nothing like recording matters that say where you are. And it has a lot to do later with what you can get and how you can get the health insurance you need or even the life insurance you need. And all of you, if you're new in here, but if you've been with us in this inception, you're 14 years older. And so it's really important. We kid and talk. I love it. No, I don't sleep with the refrigerator at night, but I have a little comfort blanket, it's called a little mini refrigerator. I have a lot of drink. No, but we have to take it serious. We really do. And, I'm going to be honest, I have to think about where I'm going these days in a lot of places where we're open public. I'm changing the way I travel. I'm looking at doing a lot of road shows and driving, being in a big field. Some of us all are dealing with compromised respiratory systems, immune systems. Stress is really told on us. So it's important. She said a few things about things you should take, and I want to add to that list. Some of you don't know, but there's certain things you should take for yourself if you haven't. We talk about vitamin E, but some of us can't take vitamin E oil. But there is such a thing as vitamin E dry. And I have been taking it since the late 70s and 80s, and it's very important for your skin. Also, RNA and DNA. It's another thing that helps to revitalize and rejuvenate your cellular system. And then the one that is common and a lot of people don't use is lysine. Lysine is a vitamin, and it's helpful for having you be able to build your immune system and deal with various viruses. So there's a number of things. We are very holistic. We do a lot of shopping. And guess what? Most of those things you can find in the 99-cent store, okay? So you don't have to go break the bank to get it, okay? But let me not go on. I want to welcome and thank everybody that's here today. And again, give yourselves a round of applause. Now, I have a few friends in here that we get together and we really let them know when we show up, we show out. So here from the show up, shout out. Yeah, we got clappers and everything. Rialto's in the house. But it's a great pleasure. Before I go on, I'm going to recognize so many people and get this program underway. But 14 years ago, when I was a council member and the leadership was someone else, but it was 14 years ago, women dominated the city council. It was 3 of us. We had somehow come together in a awkward or interesting, whatever, the universe of collided or the stars aligned. And it was Grace Vargas had just become the mayor in 2000. And she became the first woman, not only being a Latina, but the first woman to become mayor in the city of Rialto. On that same election year, another woman joined the council and was elected, and that was Miss Winnie Hanson. If you guys remember Winnie, she's still with us. I spoke with her this week, and she's now in Grand Junction, Colorado, and she gives and sends her regards to everyone. And Winnie and I we will say, real roommates, because one of our first conferences we went to, we shared a room, and we also were sitting at the same table, and Winnie went to cut her meat and threw all her rice out across the table, and we were in the first food fight that we'd ever had publicly. And then it was me. And we traveled to China. We did a lot of things. But when it was time to say we had to address our health and take charge, Grace, along with myself and Winnie, we led the charge. And I ask that you guys, 14 years later, we started here in this building. And 14 years later, this building was not named. But moving along after she left, I just felt it was so appropriate. This person had focused on seniors. She felt like she had committed and did everything she could do for this community. And I would like you guys please give Grace Vargas a round of applause and ask her to please stand, Grace. Please acknowledge Grace. And we just called her Amazing Grace. But I just want to say, she wondered when she came in today, she said, I really wish I could have done so much more. And I said, but you have. And now I want you guys to know that this building, as you know, is named in her honor. And I think it's important to honor people while they're here. And so this building is named in her honor, Grace Vargas Senior Center. And I'm so pleased and proud that she's here with us today. I just really, I love having Grace in my presence when I do, and she loves having my granddaughter in her presence, because when she was elected, she also rode in the first parade, and my granddaughter was sitting on the curb with me watching, and she was just at awe to see this woman on top of the car with all of her white on, waving to everyone. So her and Charlie created a real bond. I also have so many people in here to acknowledge and speak of, But I'm going to try and move this along because I know we have a lot. You've heard from our council members, they're here. We've heard from Councilmember Joe Jock acknowledging them. And so I want to move it along and say it's about health. And because it's about health, the call to action that I'm going to ask that you guys listen to and really do something. And I'm going to start by letting you know that I'm not one who just talks about it. I'm a person who will be about it, okay? You're going to hear from a young lady who's going to be up here briefly to speak about her daughter and something that she desperately needs to have happen. You're also going to hear from a young man who is with the City of Hope, but he also lives here in Rialto. I just found that out this morning. He went to school at Rialto High School. He even remembered, he said, "You don't remember me?" No, I probably didn't, because it was like 2 football teams out on the field, and I was being asked to toss the coin. But he was out at Rialto High School when Coach Eric Arrington, you'll remember Coach E, had me come out to toss the coin between the 2 footballs. But Joel lives here. And they're here to talk to us about definitely at least stepping up and agreeing to do just a swab and seeing if we can increase the bone marrow registry of people who could be available for certain things. One of the things that I think a lot of us have forgotten about, and we don't know that it's on the rise, and a lot of us now in our communities, we all are with family, and we are very much a blended community. How many of you are aware that sickle cell anemia is on the rise? You know, right now we're sadly, the focus today and this week and probably for a couple months is going to be on coronavirus. But sickle cell is still amongst us. And we have a young lady who's going to be graduating here in May from Spelman, if I'm not mistaken. And she's graduating soon. So you're going to hear the story. But I want you guys to know, when you leave, before you leave, it's just an envelope. And you just need to take a swab. If you want to really, when the time comes and you might be called upon, you can say no. But it's almost like the lottery. If you don't play, you don't have to worry about winning. Okay? And I would rather have to have a choice where I can make a difference than to stay ignorant, blind, blissful, and not even step up to the plate. So I will be swabbing today, joining that registry to make myself available in any way I can. Because when I go, you know, that's it. It's over. But I would like to know if there's still something I can do while I'm here on this face of earth, then let me know that I could do it. Last year, I signed up to be a donor. I did the pink dot on my driver's license. Kind of a little felt bad that my son, who I don't always see him as the enlightened one, had already did it. So he's a good son, though. So I'm doing this too. And then I have something I have to deal with this week. I went into the hospital to the Kaiser Physical Medicine, because I had an accident this past year. And the lady said to me, "Now this is physical medicine for physical therapy. Have you put in your health directive?" I'm like, "What? Why would I need to do that? You know something I don't know?" No. But it really shocked me. I'm getting ready to talk about physical. I needed physical therapy in my back, and she asked me about my health directive. Do I have it on order? I'm going to be taking care of that this weekend, and it has to be notarized. So I'm going to call on our city clerk, Miss Barbara Magee, to be the notary. She's going to have to work this weekend because I have to go in for a biopsy on Monday, and I want to make sure everything is okay. But I'm not going to assume that things will be the way that I'd like them to be, and I'm going to take care of that matter as well. So with that, I would like to, if you could indulge me, I would like to call up Miss Jada Cooper. And Jada, where are you? Come on up, Jada. Jada is the daughter-in-law to my neighbors, Marshall and Brenda Sims, my first neighbors over in on Jackson Street in Rialto. And Jada is going to talk to you briefly about the situation and what she needs to have happen. And Aquanetta?
I just have a quick correction, Mayor Robinson, something that never should ever happen. We need to have our invocation.
Oh, yes.
So I would ask that Reverend Noella Buchanan, can you please join us on the stage to do that before we go any further? We are in an unblessed room right now. That's okay.
You know, sometimes you wonder why things happen. And so I just have to believe that we were forgotten about, just so that at this moment we could all just say, yes, God, I do need you in my life. And I know we're here today from a lot of different faith. And so I might pray in my faith, but if your faith is different, just pray to the God that you know. Amen. Dear gracious and loving Abba, we come today in this precious name of your Son, Yeshua, who allowed this day to present us with the opportunity to come and celebrate these dynamic women, women who have gone over and above. Lord, we as women who are gathered here today can all boast of being strong and courageous, but we are aware that every now and then there are women who excel expectation. They are those who have a vision of a brighter tomorrow. They have stepped out of the confines of their situation in life, and in various ways they have strived to bring a brighter tomorrow for so many. As they are being honored today, may we hear about their journeys, and may each of us draw some gleam of wisdom so that their commitment to the wider community may be a legacy we can all benefit from. These things we thank you for, and we are appreciative of. In the name of your precious Son, Jesus, and those who believe said amen.
Thank you so much, and please forgive me, Reverend. Now, also, we do have a representative from our great supervisor's office, Josie Gonzalez, supervisor of District 5. Leisha, are you in the house? There you go. Leisha Smith. And the beauty of these programs, we're flexible. We can move it around, put it up, or put it down. Now we will have our great speaker. We'll start with Jada, and then we'll have Mr. Holley up here.
Good morning. I first would like to thank Mayor Robertson and also the city clerk, Barbara Magee, for allowing me this opportunity to address you today. And thank you all for coming here for this great cause, and I know everyone in this room is a leader. So I want to start with just a little bit of background about my daughter. My name is Jada Cooper. My daughter, Elise Cooper, she has sickle cell disease. And as many of you know, you're probably familiar with sickle cell disease. If you don't have it yourself, you know someone who has it or who at least has the trait. Elise is 22 years old. She's been suffering from sickle cell her entire life. When she was born, she was in the hospital probably every other week from birth to age 5. We lived at Loma Linda University Medical Center. We were there constantly for pain crises, for respiratory infections, pneumonia, the gamut of everything that sickle cell does to you. From age 5 through age 22, she was a patient at Children's Hospital of Orange County, where she had her gallbladder removed, her spleen removed, she had multiple surgeries, and she had to be put on chronic blood transfusion therapy. What that entails is she has to rely on the public to come in and say, I want to donate blood to you. Now, this is from age 5 to 22. She continues to receive blood transfusions every 4 weeks to live. So imagine that. I say that to say I'm going to just read you Elise's resume. She's a senior at Spelman, graduating in May of this year. Elise will be graduating summa cum laude. She was the recipient of the CHP Sullivan Advanced Study Scholarship. She's on the Dean's List. She is Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society. She is Psi Chi Honor Society. She's Beta Kappa Psi Scientific Honor Society. She graduated at the top of her class at Riverside City College before she transferred over to Spelman, where she achieved an Associate's of Science degree in Math and Science with honors. So Elise, to say the least, is a very dynamic individual. She is the Vice President of Communications and Recognition for Residential Housing at Spelman. She is the Director of Programming for Transfer Student Association. She also served as the Youth Development Specialist for the Boys and Girls Club of Redlands. She was a proctor when she could have been a recipient of disability services at Riverside City College. She could have been a recipient of their services. Instead, she was a proctor, and she served the disabled community at Riverside City College by being a proctor and a scribe. So to say she's an individual who has always decided that sickle cell is a part of me, but it is not who I am. So she, with that said, she has chosen to live her life with dignity, courage, and determination. She's a leader in her community at Spelman, and I told her that I was coming here today to speak to women who are similar to her, who are women of action, and who are leaders in their community. And she said, Mom, you know, she's always been very humble. She didn't really share her story with a lot of people because she didn't want people to feel sorry for her. She said, I want to earn things without them thinking I did it, you know, I didn't need sympathy. This is, like I said, this is a condition, this is not who I am. So many of the people that she grew up with did not know she had sickle cell disease. Her best friend did not know that she had sickle cell disease. So when I told Elise, I said, you have a testimony. You need to share it, because there are people out there like you who need to see you and who need to know that they have someone they can aspire to be, or inspiration, or whatever their goals are, they know that they can achieve them by looking at what you're doing. I said, you have to share your story. So on Thursday of this past week, she was on a panel with Miss America, who's the spokesperson for Be the Match, and they addressed the Atlanta University Center, Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark, and she shared her story. And that was the first time she shared her story on in a major forum, so I was very proud of her. But what I'm here today to ask you to do, I'm a mom. Elise is going to have a bone marrow transplant in May when she comes home after graduation. Right now, she does not have a donor. Out of 19 million people that are on the registry, there is not one person that matches her. Now, as a mother, and I'm sure many of you are moms, imagine if the doctor came to you and said, I can cure your child. She will never have to have another blood transfusion. She will never have to be subject to the possibility of having AIDS or HIV or hepatitis or coronavirus with all of the blood transfusions that she has to have. We can take that away. Imagine if they came to you to say, we can cure her, but we need somebody that matches her. We need a match. So, out of all of the 19 million people in that registry, she has a 23% chance of finding a match out of the African American community. Out of those 23%, 70% will change their mind. They will say, I don't want to do it. I'm here to tell you today, bone marrow transplant or bone marrow donation is not what it used to be. People say bone marrow and they think, oh, what do I have to do? How is this going to affect me? It's very simple. Now it looks like you're getting an IV. It may take you 6 to 8 hours. It's outpatient, but it's not like it used to be. If you go on YouTube, there are a million videos right now to show you how easy it is. If you're familiar with Robin Roberts, she went through the process, but her sister was a match for her. Many people don't have that. I have a son, he's not a match. My husband and I are considered half matches. That's not the most favorable outcome. There is someone out there that matches my daughter. It may be you, it may be someone you know. I need you to not only sign up, but I need you to share this story, because it affects us. Like Mayor said, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to be advocates for ourselves. But if we're not donating organs or stem cells, we're not helping our community. It may be you one day who needs a donation. Think about that. There are 73 blood disorders that can be cured with a bone marrow transplant. 73 blood disorders. Think about that. So I'm here today, and I'm so glad you all came out for this event, but I'm very thankful that I'm able to share this story with you. And again, I thank Mayor Robertson, and I thank the city board for all that you do for the city of Rialto. Thank you.
You got to clap a little louder for that right there. You got to clap a little louder for that. My name is Joel Holley. I'm from the City of Hope Be the Match program. The City of Hope is a cancer research hospital. I work in Department of Hematology, which is the study of blood. So when a patient has a blood cancer, like sickle cell leukemia or ALL, they go through chemotherapy, they go through radiation. And when they exhausted all efforts from that, and that's when the doctors come to our department and say this patient is in need of a stem cell transplant in order for a greater chance of survival. So our job is to go out into the general public and try to find someone who matches that patient. Like she spoke of before, mom and dad is only a half a match. So in order to get a full match, we check for a sibling first. And about 30% of the time, a sibling matches. And that's only 30% of the time. 70% of the time, not even a twin will match. So we go into the general public and find a match. The reason it's so difficult to find a match is because we have to match up 10 HLA markers. HLA markers are, I'll break it down to you for you. For a heart transplant, you need 4 HLA markers. For a stem cell transplant, you need 10. So you almost have to go out in the general public and find your exact twin. And when I mean exact, I mean your exact twin when it comes back to your heritage. This is the time when they say we're all the same underneath. We're not. This is the time that race does matter. It does matter, especially as us as African Americans, because we're here in the United States right now, not in Africa. So we're mixed with a lot of different stuff up until now. So it's really important for us to be on this registry just to see if we match in order to save a patient. So we go into the general public and ask healthy donors to get on this registry just to see if you match a patient. It's not guaranteed that you're going to match and you're going to actually donate. I've been on the registry for 16 years. I've never donated once. I wish I can sit up here and say I've donated and it didn't hurt at all. It was nothing. But I've been on the registry 16 years. I haven't donated because I haven't matched a patient. But I wish I could. But the problem that I have is I worked in a transfusion unit for 10 years. 10 years I worked in a transfusion unit. I've been doing this right here for 2 years. And in the transfusion unit, I extract those stem cells. And out of all these years extracting stem cells, I never see my peoples there. Straight up, I don't see my peoples on these chairs, and it upset me. It upsets me because I see our people suffer when I'm in this hospital. I work at the City of Hope, one of the largest cancer research hospitals there is, and I see my people suffering. I see my Latino people. I see us suffering in here. We're not making it. And I asked my supervisor, like, what's the deal? What are you guys saying to these people out here? Are you guys telling them the truth? Because somebody must not tell my people, because my peoples are quick to action. My people step up. My peoples get busy. Clap it up for that. My peoples get busy. So I'm like, what is the deal? So they asked me to go out there and you go tell them. And I said, cool. And I was in that department the next week. I was in the department. So I go out and I speak exactly like it was. I'm telling you, we have to be on this list. So in order to be on this list, our requirements is between the ages of 18 and 44 in order to register. I know everybody gonna be like, oh my gosh. If you're over 44, that just means you're overqualified. That's all that means. That's all that means. So, but what we can do, for those of us that's over 44, we have children, we have grandchildren. We have the ability to host marrow drives. We have the ability, everybody in this room has a church. Everybody has a place of worship. Everybody has a job. Everybody has a barbecue, a bar mitzvah, a backyard boogie, a dance party. Whatever it is, I'll show up. You know, a gas station at the corner, I come there. Whatever it takes, I will be there for my patients. So it's important that you get that information and get my card out there. I'll give you my card. I'll give you my number, because I will come. I will come. I will be there. So let's host these drives and let's save our people. Thank you guys very, very much.
You know, I got to tell you, we all think we have that cross to bear, but can you imagine? So, I mean, if you're willing to meet at the gas station, that's enough for me. That's great. Let's take advantage of what he told us today. Now, I did Facebook Live, and the rest of you have Instagram and all that. Get his information, take a copy of it, and let's just shoot it out. Let's go viral on this information. Now, with that said, we're going to move along. To my knowledge, I have not skipped over anybody else. I think we're good. We're prayed up, we're happy, and we're all fed well. So at this time, we're going to have a real treat. This next section is we're going to have a conversation about violent women. Before I call them up, I want to set the house for this. You know, I usually say bring the lights down, everybody look up, let's smile, hold hands, but we don't need to dim the lights because we need to see and hear these great women. You know, 2020 is a very special year because it marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And for those of you that don't believe me, turn to page 2 in your program later and you'll see it. But it comes down to this. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. And when you go back to D.C., they have a woman's museum. You'll see very good pictures. I saw a couple pictures in the program. You just get a feel for what it was like during that time period. Now, it took 72 years of an ongoing nonviolent political campaign that involved 3 generations. You hear me? 3 generations of suffragists working to ensure the voting rights for women. Finally, on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was added to the Constitution and guaranteed a woman's federal right to vote. This important anniversary of the 19th Amendment, also known as the Women's Suffrage Centennial, will be celebrated throughout the country. This 100th anniversary is important because it provides an opportunity to recognize the multiple generations who worked for the vote. Now, when we have these elections and people make up excuses, I always remind, particularly our young people, there are people in their grave, up in heaven, or wherever they went to, that fought for you to vote. And you can't take out 20 minutes. And it's so easy now. You can do it by mail. If you're ballot harvesting, we won't go there. You can do it by that way or whatever it takes. The right that we must work to protect is not only for today, but for our future generations. And do not believe for one second that there are not those that have figured out a way to suppress the vote. Okay, let's be real about this. The 2020 theme, Valiant Women of the Vote, recognizes determination, courage, and tenacity necessary to secure one of our most vital rights. So when you see these people walking around with "I voted" on their chests, I always do this to them because they're doing what my grandmother's grandmother was not allowed to do. Let me give you an example. Marie Foster, who was a courageous and unrelenting leader in the civil rights movement during the 1960s, she worked closely with Dr. King and other civil rights leaders to secure the right to vote for African Americans. But on Sunday, March 7, 1965, a nonviolent voting rights march was scheduled to walk the 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, state capital. The 600 marchers got as far as the Edmund Pettus Bridge when state and local enforcement attacked these marchers with billy clubs and tear gas. Remember? Bloody Selma? When you go to Selma, if you've ever gotten on that bridge, you can feel it. You can feel that. On March 21st, 2 weeks later, Marie Foster with 2 injured knees. Have you had knee trouble? Just imagine, 2 injured knees. That woman walked 50 miles in 5 days as part of the voting rights from Selma to Montgomery. She tried to register to vote 8 times, and ultimately she was successful. Following this experience, she started teaching other African Americans how to pass the literacy tests. Can you imagine? People would come and they would tell them, you're voting, and you might be asking for gum. My grandmother used to tell me that story. And we're back there, people. We have young people that are not literate enough to read, to even vote in this day and age. And I got chastised last week, but I got them straight. Because Spectrum did a special on me, and I talked about our priorities. We have to be serious about our health, and we have to be serious about our children's education. And it's on us. We can't blame nobody. It's on us. But Marie became very famous for her efforts. Then let's look at Carrie Chapman, Catt, a suffrage and a key figure in passing the 19th Amendment. She remained dedicated to the education of women about political issues. You have women, oh, that's my husband's job, the politics. No, it's not. You're supposed to help that man mark his ballot before he leaves home that day. You're supposed to help your grandkids. One of my friends out there showed me a picture with pride this morning of her taking her grandson to vote for the first time. Raise your hand, babe. You're out there. That's the way you're supposed to behave. That's the way you're supposed to behave. But in 1920, Carrie founded the League of Women Voters. Barbara makes sure that stays close in my heart. When they have events, she makes sure I go. Because they don't care what party you're in. You just need to vote. Now, this afternoon, we have valiant women who are examples of what is possible when dedicated and courageous people work toward a better future for all of us. When I went back to that Women's Museum in Washington, D.C., I was running around there with an attitude because I didn't see a lot of black women on the wall. I didn't see a lot of Latinos on the wall. But then suddenly I got in one area of that museum, and it was all us. And the pride filled my heart. But the tour guide lady was an older African-American woman, and she looked at me. She said, I know what you're thinking. You don't see a lot of us on these walls. She said, you know why? God set it up like that. Because we don't need to be on a wall. We need to be out there in the street. I will never, ever forget that lady, because she set me straight right then. Because you know when I'm not happy, my face looks like, you know, and all my little white friends with me, girl, isn't this impressive? I was like, but I bet you I woke up then smiling, and I looked back at them and said, you're absolutely right. So I'm going to call these speakers to the stage one by one so that we can embrace where they're coming from. So when we start asking these questions, you'll know why we consider them dynamic. I'm going to start with Pam Lee, who is an attorney for Alsher and Winder. Can you join us on the stage? Let's give her a big hand. And then we have Keanu Charles, who is the principal manager of policy engagement for Southern California Edison. Let's give it up. We have Cass Havas, the resident engineer for Burge and Associates. Can you please join us? And then we have Lupe Valdez, Senior Director of Public Affairs for Union Pacific. See, a lot of us women don't know. We got some women doing some things around here, okay? They're not on Channel 2, but they are you, okay? You know about that channel, right? They'll be there to help us when most will not help us. So I'm going to sit down with these great ladies. I guess I'm going to stand up with these great ladies. You know, this mayor is always looking for a seat at the table, but I got to stand, so I'm good with that. First of all, I'd like each of our speakers, and I'm going to start with yourself, to just introduce yourself, just a couple of, just 1 minute. Tell us just something great about you.
All right. Well, can you hear me? Great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here. My name is Pam Lee. And for those of you who don't know, I am the Assistant City Attorney for the City of Rialto. I work with Mayor Robertson and the rest of the council members here, and been around serving the community since 2014. I've been an attorney for a long time. And I'm just honored to be here today with you.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Keanu Charles from Southern California, Edison. Most importantly, it feels very good to be home. Many of you know that I'm actually from San Bernardino. I graduated from Cal State San Bernardino. Go Coyotes. Got any Coyotes in the house?
Yeah, we got to watch these. Oh, thanks.
From there, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I received a master's from Howard University. Got some Bisons and HBCUs, okay? And moving back to San Bernardino, I got very involved in politics and civic engagement with the League of Women Voters, with NCNW, and my mentors, many of you probably know Mrs. Lois J. Carson, and I had many conversations about what was going on at the time in Sacramento, and I was complaining to her about legislation and policy being passed with communities being left behind. And she said, you know what? You ought to do something about it. You should go to Sacramento. You should work there and really understand how bills and laws are passed. And I said, you know what? I'll do that. And she provided information to me about a fellowship program in Sacramento. It's called the Jesse M. Unruh program. It's 11 months. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was applying to one of the most prestigious fellowship programs in the country. Hundreds and hundreds of young people every year apply for 18 positions. And with letters and support from folks right here in this community, and with the experience that I learned from working with Ms. Barbara Magee, I was one of those candidates. And so I was able to really understand politics and policy. And from there, I moved back to Los Angeles area, working for Southern California Edison, and I am still doing that today. So.
Very good.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Lupe Valdez. I currently serve as the Senior Director for Public Affairs for Union Pacific Railroad. Had humble beginnings. I'm the daughter of a housekeeper in the hospital for many, many years. My mother was a housekeeper in the hospitals, and my dad was a pot washer. Between the two, they didn't have a lot of education. They came from families that pretty much, as soon as you were able to work, you went to work. So you didn't have, school was a luxury. So when I was born and when I came of age, my mom said to me, I'll still remember, she said, you know, honey, I can get you high school in Northeast LA, but after that, you're on your own because we don't have the money to send you beyond high school. And the neat thing was that I told my mom not to worry, that we were going to try scholarships and do whatever it took to get me through college and get me into USC, which I was successful in doing. And I'll tell you a funny story about that USC part, because it talks about sometimes people try to give you good advice, and they mean well, but they're not helping. I had a Catholic school nun that told me, honey, you probably shouldn't go to USC because there's a lot of people out there and you may not make it. And maybe you should go to community college. And at the time, believe me, my husband teaches at community college. I think they're incredible today. But at the time I went to school, a lot of people weren't being pushed beyond community college. That's where they went to die. They didn't go on That now it's changed completely. Folks are focused on getting them past community college if they want to go to a four-year, if they don't, go into different programs. But then it wasn't the case. That's where a lot of kids didn't go beyond community college or didn't even get an AA. So at the time I remember thinking, oh my God, a nun is telling me I can't do this. And my mom said to me, you know, people mean well, but if you really want to do this, you give it a try, and if you decide it's not for you, that's fine. But you have to try it first and then see what happens. I not only got my undergraduate, I got 2 degrees from USC, and I also got my master's. End of the line. So, again, and I'll talk more later.
Hi, I'm Cass Hanvas, and I work with a construction management company called Bergen Associates. And I'm a construction engineer, and I've been in construction for 40 years. I grew up with a family of, I had 4 brothers, and I really hand it to my parents that I was never told I couldn't do something. And so I like math, I like science. I went into engineering, and what I like to do is build things. And so right now we have a couple of projects in the city of Rialto that if you run into the cones on the street, we apologize. We're working on getting it done. And I've been in construction for 40 years, and I'm really inspired by the energy in this room. It's just incredible. So thank you all for being here.
Now, ladies up here, you valiant women, I'm going to ask a few questions of each of you, and we just need a quick answer, and we'll be good. I'm going to start with you, Pam Lee. I want you to talk to us about the Crown Act, which is SB 188 Mitchell, and what are some of the ways people from your field are making a difference in this world?
All right, so for those of you who don't know, the Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, Crown. And that is basically a law that was signed July of last year that prohibits discrimination based on hairstyles or hair texture. It's been a long time coming.
Wait, let me see. Let's do a, can you all hear? Okay.
Okay, so it's been a long time coming, and, you know, the impetus for this is that, you know, we all know that it is illegal to discriminate based on someone's gender, and it's illegal to discriminate based on someone's race. But it's perfectly acceptable to treat someone differently based on their hairstyle. But what happens when that hairstyle is so historically associated or intricately intertwined with that person's race? And that's exactly what's been happening for 100 years, up until now, at least in the state of California. And we've had professional dress code policies and grooming policies that basically say, you know, you're required to dress in a professional with, you know, professional clothing and have professional hairstyles. But unfortunately, what does professional mean? And for a very long time, anything that was straight, wavy, smooth was considered professional and normal, and anything that wasn't that standard was not. And unfortunately, this, although on its face, didn't really have a racial outright bias, it had a disparate impact on women of color, most particularly, not just people of color, but particularly women of color. And I'm sure, you know, in looking at this room, how many of you here have been subject to some form of discrimination based on the way you wear your hair, right? A lot of us here have been. And so this law basically came into effect, and our firm helped promote it and galvanize it, and ultimately it got adopted last year in July. Governor Newsom signed it, and it was the first law in the nation to prohibit discrimination in the workplace and at schools based on this type of hairstyle. And I don't know if you recall, but back in 2018, where that young man who was a wrestler was so humiliatingly forced to cut his hair or forfeit his wrestling match, that basically was the straw that broke the camel's back. It finally galvanized the communities across the nation, and Dove, the soap brand, their executives actually created this Crown Coalition to help galvanize those of us and help create this type of legislation. So there's 5 other states after California that have now passed this law, but our firm has helped guide employers into how we can actually implement this law and prevent this type of implicit bias against the community.
Isn't it? Thank you so much. I remember in banking, we couldn't have braids.
Right. And that's exactly what was going on.
And I
And
remember
so now
somebody
we do that.
called me from the head office and said, there's a whole lot of people complaining because the tellers have braids. So I went to the meeting, and guess how my hair was? And they backed off. What are some of the ways, this is for Cass, what are some of the ways you have benefited for working in what is traditionally known as a male-dominated field? Do women in your profession have a hard time getting promoted?
Well, in the past, yes. Taking the second question first. The promotions, that brings up the idea of mentorship. And so in the past, mentors were typically, they'd go towards the men, the young men that were coming up. And I didn't have anybody that looked like me that was above me. And so I did have some very strong male role models. And like my parents, there was nothing that I couldn't do. And so when I was out in the field, one particular time, I was out in the field. I was working for the water department at the time. We had a water main break, and a restaurant was out of water at lunchtime. And so the owner of the restaurant was complaining about not having water, rightly so. And so he called into the company, and my boss said, that I was out in the field and he needed to talk to me. Well, he found me, and he says, I want to talk to somebody in charge. And I said, that's me. He goes, no, I somebody who can do something. I said, that's me. And he said, no, I have to talk to somebody in charge. I said, that's me. And he says, I'm calling your boss. And I said, that's right. Actually, my boss said, you need to talk to her. I can't do anything. And so in the meantime, the crews were busily working and got it back on. I got the thumbs up from the guys down the street. Water's back on. I said, sir, your water's back on. And he says, thank you. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
It certainly did. Let's give her a hand. This is for you, Lupe. Can you tell us how you navigated power structures early in your career versus later in your career?
I think one of the things that happened, at least early on, for those of you that remember the Southern California Rapid Transit District for UNLA County, the RTD, that was my first really professional job. And the reason I took it, by the way, was because it had benefits. And I was coming from a nonprofit that didn't have benefits, so I realized at a certain age I needed benefits, especially medical benefits. Well, at the RTD, even though the bus operators at that moment reflected the community, the people in the power structure did not when I joined the RTD. And they were making decisions. And my mother, by the way, was transit dependent. She went to work on the bus. She went to doctor's appointments. She took me on the bus. I mean, the bus was the way we got around. It was definitely the way we got around. So I realized I wanted to work here because of that support that she had in terms of the mobility that offered her. And so, but when I got there and I realized some of these folks that were making decisions did not look like my mother, did not look like most of us that were on the bus at the time, I realized, these folks, we have to get in there. I came into RTD when they were barely starting to build the subway. They actually were the first organization really that was building the subway. All white male engineers. And here I come, young Latina, non-engineer, clearly. But what I learned from those early days was, even though I wasn't an engineer, I was going to learn everything I needed to know about construction and engineering if it killed me. So I was going to go out with the construction crews. I was going to put the boots on. I was going to put the hard hat on. I was going to go underground. Let me tell you, the guys tried to scare me. The guys threw dead things at me. As long as they weren't crawling, I was okay with the dead rats, because there's a lot of rats in downtown LA, but I didn't let that bug me. And so all of a sudden it was like, wait, she's not running away. I'm like, no, I'm not running. I'm going to learn this. And even though I am not an engineer and I didn't plan to be an engineer, I'm going to learn every aspect of making this project. I'm going to learn the funding. Because I can then explain it to people. And then I can tell others how they can get involved in this project. That was traditionally not. One of the earliest stories I remember was I'm in a meeting and I'm just learning. I'm not talking. I'm not on the agenda. And the head engineer tells me to go make coffee. And I thought, again, you don't want to say no. At the same time, you don't want to make coffee. I love coffee, by the way, but that wasn't the point. But I said, sorry, I don't know how to make the coffee. And then all of a sudden it was like, it's back to him, right? It wasn't me. I wasn't saying no, but I didn't know because I didn't know their coffee pot. But that was okay. He didn't need to know that. But I mean, it was, how do you respond in a respectful way? I wasn't being disrespectful, even though it was coming my way. But how do you respond and make sure that they understand that that's not a question to ask of you again, because he doesn't want to be put in that position again as the head engineer. He never asked me to make another cup of coffee for all the time that I was there. And again, that's how you do. To me, that was the early years. Later, at the railroad, again, male-dominated field, here I am again. And I think the difference for me now in terms of is learning, and I have learned how to live. We all have intuition. We all know when things are right or wrong. We know that. We feel it. Something's not right. We don't know what it is yet. But now I really, really, really rely on that intuition more than I ever did as a youngin'. You're always questioning and doubting yourself. You're always asking yourself questions or saying, oh, I'm sorry. I hate when we say I'm sorry. We should not be saying that as women as many times as we do. And I get myself into that too. I'm sorry. Why am I saying that? I should not be saying I'm sorry. There's another word we have to use, and it's not I'm sorry. It may be a question, but it's not I'm sorry. And so now listening to that intuition and feeling very comfortable with who I am. And yesterday I had the great experience of having a senior executive vice president here who is younger than I am at UP. He happens to be a man of color, which I am thrilled at. And it was funny because I said something to him and he was really caught off guard by it. I said, I have your back. And he looked at me like, oh man. I mean, it was really funny because I said, hey, as people of color, we have to support one another. Yes, we support everyone, but we have to really support people that are in these positions because we want other people to be in those positions and other people to see them in those positions. And in a company like a railroad that's 150 some years old, that traditionally did not see people like us in the executive team, that is just so important.
Okay. Thank you. Kiana, we know that getting to where you are today was not easy, and sustaining yourself in your current role can be challenging as well. What is the best career advice you've received, and how have you applied it to your career?
Thank you for the question. I thought long and hard about it, and I couldn't come up with just one piece of career advice. I have two. First and foremost is the importance of respecting people. I think as high as you go in an organization, for whatever reason, people lose that core value. It's something that you learn in school or you learn in church or your family, but it's something that I feel like people, excuse me, they lose as they move up the org chart. And so at Southern California Edison, we have 6 values, and respect is one of them. And I will just say that having respect for your colleagues will open way more doors for you than not. The second piece of advice, career advice that I received was not to be afraid to ask for what you want. And I know that as women, it's difficult to do that. And very early in my career, people encouraged me to just do your job and keep your head down. Ladies, that does not work for us. Doesn't always work for us. And there is nothing wrong with articulating what it is that you want. Certainly, we're going to have to work hard. That's a given. But assuming that, and assuming that you're doing it in a respectful way, there's nothing wrong with communicating what it is that you want. And my one quick example of that is I had an opportunity at Southern California Edison to do an 18-month rotation in our Sacramento and our Washington, D.C. office. And the opportunity was presented to me, but it wasn't right. And we were talking about intuition. And I respectfully put together my own plan and shared it at the time with our senior vice president. And I said, I don't want to just shadow a lobbyist in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C., because that's not how adults typically learn. We have to be given assignments, substantive work, and then you evaluate us on that. Shadowing someone is a little bit too passive for me. I have to be all in. Would you indulge me in extending the program? I did say that this was an 18-month program. It was presented to me as a 6-month option. And I asked for 18 months because I felt like that was better for me, and it would certainly help my career. And because I was able to articulate those things and talk about what value I would bring and what I would also learn in those 18 months was the deciding factor.
Very good. Pam, do you believe the primary reason women leave their jobs is to raise a family? Why do you think it's difficult for women to return to the traditional workforce? And do you see this changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a lot of questions. And, you know, I have to say, as a mother of 3 young children, it's such a complex answer. It involves so many different aspects. I wouldn't say it's the primary reason that women leave the workforce, but it is a major reason. And it boils down to, you know, the lack of support and the lack of respect and being treated as, you know, an unequal half of humanity. You know, when I was pregnant with my second child, I work at a law firm. And so I asked, well, what's your maternity leave policy? We don't have one. And I was like, you don't have one? Okay. So what do we do? And I basically said, you know what? I'm going to write one for you. So that's what I did. I researched all the different federal and state laws, and I ended up drafting a maternity leave policy for my own law firm. And I handed it in, and a week later, I went on leave and had my baby and came back, and they implemented it. And it's been in place. But, you know, this day and age, I was dumbfounded. The fact that a place that I worked at, a law firm that counsels other employers on, you know, employment rights, that we didn't have a standing, you know, maternity leave policy. So it's kind of ironic. But I think, you know, women make 79 cents on the dollar for everything that her male counterpart makes. And it's just completely unfair. We do just as good of a job, if not better. And women, sorry men, but we carry the burden not only at work, but at home. You know, I have 3 kids. You know, I'm so blessed and so lucky to have a husband who is very supportive, and that's why I can be here while he takes care of the 3 of them, taking them to ballet and sports and all of that this morning. But you know, a lot of women out there, we don't have the support network that we need to not only be head of our household, mother of our children, chauffeurs to our, you know, our family members, the cook, the cleaner, the worker, you know, the bacon owner. You know, we need to do all of that and still be expected to look good, eat right, sleep well. I mean, what we are supposed to be everything. And the fact that we are the most developed country in the entire world and we still don't have a paid family leave policy for the United States is deplorable. And the fact that it's been 100 years since we've had the right to vote and we still don't have a female president, unbelievable. You know, so I think it boils down to not just the fact that we don't have the support, you know, and being underrepresented and being, you know, undervalued. It's that we all are now having to come together to fend for ourselves. And if men could have babies, we would have this policy in place a long time ago.
Thank you, Pam. I think they were working on that a few years ago. Cass, how has your film industry changed, if at all, in the past 5 years as it relates to women? And what do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'm very happy to say that I, in the past 5 years or so, I'm not the only woman in the room. And like Lupe, growing up in the industry, for the last 20 years, I've been working on building railroads. And like I said, there's a project I'm working on right now that there is one man out of probably about, at our weekly meetings, there's about 10 people at our weekly meetings, and there's one man in that room. What's not happening, though, and that's on the engineering and the management side, what's not happening, unfortunately, is on the field, the craft, the carpenters, the electricians, the laborers, the operators. I see women out there, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, the hazing, whatever's happening in the labor pool, I don't see women continuing, and that's something that I would like to see different. I'm not sure exactly how to facilitate that, other than to get into the elementary schools and the junior high schools and start having career days of you know, you can do any job that's out there, and not every job is for everyone. But I would love to see more women in the trades.
Amen on that. Kiana, we are in a pro-female movement right now. Do you all feel that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Women are able to claim and exert more power. Many women are not comfortable with power. So we ask ourselves, how can I be powerful without alienating people? I'm thinking right now, some things I did this week. I probably have to stop by and get some flowers for people. Without pissing off everybody. What if people aren't unhappy? What are your thoughts on this? And I struggle with this along with the rest of you in this room, because the guys do it and it goes, he's just having a bad day. Mm-hmm. You do it, what a you know what. Mm-hmm. Tell us what to do, Kiana.
I don't know, but because it certainly is a challenge. But I would say you have to live your best life in your authentic self. That's right. And be comfortable with that. And everything else will have to get in line. I also think that having male allies, having sisters in the room, I believe in the importance of mentoring and bringing people along so that you're not the only one and that you are developing your sister circle to have other women who may be going through those same challenges to share and to lean into them as well. But you've got to be who you are and be comfortable and confident, because when you do that, you give other women permission to come out and to be themselves too. It's a multiplying effect. So keep doing what you're doing, Mayor.
You know, I tell you, what I love about Deborah Robinson and Barbara and Kiana and all of us together, you know, we had a pretty contentious election a couple of weeks ago. But I think even with my best friend, Josie Gonzalez, we decided this is not our gig. We're not going to argue about this. And the next day we came out in love. And we got to do that, ladies, because people are depending on us, and children are watching us. And when people come to my council meetings acting a fool, I tell them all the time, all 5 of them. We got 215,000 people here. Thank you for your opinion. But you're not representative of everyone's views. And watch what you say, because the kids are watching. You know, even with marriages, you have to be careful. You're up here arguing with your husband all the time, and you wonder why your kid's in the principal's office. Watch what we do. But obviously, Kiana watched the good part of us. Lupe, given the current environment, women can face different challenges in the workplace, challenges that can make it more difficult to access opportunities, networks, resources. In your view, what are some of these challenges, and what role can male advocates and managers play in addressing these challenges?
In first hearing that question, I automatically went to after I had my son, having no idea how hard child care was when you don't have a family member or someone that you can trust or entrust with your child. I felt completely vulnerable, thinking I'm putting my child, because I had to work. I can't stop working. We live in Southern California. It's expensive here. I couldn't take the time off. But beyond that, my thinking was, oh my God, what do women do? I had resources. And even then, I struggled to find what I trusted was good child care for my son. And I thought, God, that was really a challenge. And I just had, until you're in it, you don't know how bad it is until you're in it and you're faced with it, having to make that decision. So I think that's a challenge. The flip of that was also the flexibility that my employer gave me to be able to look. With cell phones and computers, I can work from anywhere. I can work from the parking lot. Okay, I really can. I'm in my car doing a conference call. That's what I do. So you're going to get your hours worth out of me. But if you are flexible, if you give me that flexibility, that allows me to completely be loyal to you and completely be able to probably work more hours than I need to. Fast forward. Then we have to also take care of our parents sometimes, and maybe grandchildren, where we didn't really expect to be taking care of grandchildren. Whole different ballgame. I did give up 2 opportunities to do programs because I was taking care of my mother. Even though I had a caretaker, she lived with me and our family. So I couldn't just take off for a month or 2 months to do this program, knowing that I'm the only kid that was taking care of my mother. I have no regret. I have no regret. My mom's in heaven. I have no regret that was the important thing to do. And again, that goes to being who you are, that yes, you may have this opportunity, but what is more important? And even though it is a struggle, I'm not telling you it was easy. It's the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. But again, knowing that I did that, looking at, I have no regret that I gave up the other thing, because other doors opened for me in other ways. That maybe it wasn't that program, the timing was off, but taking care of my mom or taking care of my son or making sure that the family was, that's important. And to me, that's the part. But I think the flexibility that I have been fortunate to have bosses, again, I'm going to be able to support them in whatever way possible, but give me that flexibility, because I want to go to my son's play, I want to go to his recital, I wanted to go see this play, and I needed to come back to do that. They were very supportive of that.
Very good. Now you know why we call them valid women. Real quick, I want a snappy answer because this will end this great panel. I'm going to start with you, Cass. Who has inspired you and why?
I was inspired by a manager of an apartment building that I had. I met her when she was 85 years old. And in this year, the 100th year of suffrage of women's vote, she was 28 years old when women got the right to vote. And every election day, I would knock on her door. I said, "Are you voting today?" And she said, "You are certain I'm voting." She said, I was 28 years old when the women got the right to vote, and I have not missed an election. And she missed one election, and that was on her 97th year, and she died a couple of months later. So she has inspired me throughout my whole life.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand. Lupe, the same question. Who has inspired you and why?
I think looking at it now in terms of where I'm at in life, I have to go to my mom. In the 60s, it wasn't known that women worked out of the home, and my mom had to work out of the home. But she always provided for us, and she always did it knowing and hoping that her children would have a better life and understanding why she was away from the home. I remember going to work with her at times. I remember sitting in the break room at times, doing my homework, doing whatever it took. My mom was not a single parent. At the same time, my dad was not very helpful in childcare, so as some men weren't in the 60s. So my mom would rather take me to work and have me sit in the break room, knowing that I would be watched. But again, she came to this country not knowing the language. She came here with a promise of a job. My mom's history is incredible. She came here probably at 23, 24 years old, and she worked for the first Latino doctor in East LA, Dr. Bravo, who now has a medical magnet school named after him. She didn't know, she picked Los Angeles because she liked the name Los Angeles because it had angels in it versus San Francisco because she didn't like St. Francis. Go figure. I mean, that's what made my mom's decision to come to Los Angeles. So, I mean, she had no clue or concept of what it was, where it was, and then she came to work for a doctor not knowing a language and being able to learn English. And then she worked on a chicken farm in La Puente when the doctor had a chicken farm in La Puente. I mean, just a wild story in terms of, her knowing there was a better life, her knowing there was something better out there, and, just rolling the dice and knowing it was going to be better. And so I have to say that's who I want to honor.
Tiana?
Yeah. Like Lupe, I want to recognize and honor my mom, who is actually in the room. Mom, can you just stand or raise your hand? Yeah. Thank you so much for all the sacrifices that you made for me. I will never forget it, and I will always do whatever I can to honor you for the sacrifices that you made for me. So,
thank you. Pam?
Looking back on this question, I'd have to say my mom as well. We moved here. I was 4 years old. We didn't have a house to live in. My mom came here with, the promise of a job as well, and she worked, 12-hour days as a nurse. By the time I got up to go to school, she was already gone. She'd pick me up after school, and then she'd have to go home, and I'd have to do my homework. She would make dinner. She would help, correct my homework. She'd bathe me. She'd put me to bed, and it was like that day in and day out. We lived with another family at the time because we couldn't afford another home on our own, but after years and years of working, finally saving up enough money to be able to afford a home on our own, and now she's retired, and she lives with me, and I'm trying to pay back the favor, but she still helps care for my children. She's just a great mother and a great grandmother to my kids. So all of you women out there, you're all great and you're fabulous leaders, and by being here, you are pillars of your community and the foundations of your home. So give yourselves a hand of applause. It is fantastic you were all able to be here.
I'd like us to thank our great panelists. Let's give them all a big hand. These are messages that we can take in our heart, and we're celebrating their great contributions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, all right. Mayor Robinson, there she comes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Very good.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna, okay, everybody, come back with me real quick. While she's here, okay. All right. We're gonna bring up Mayor Robinson now, but don't leave because you have raffle tickets, and I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out. I'm actually gonna seek and I buy one of these baskets I've been eyeing here. Okay, that was, now somebody bought the dress I won, now they're telling me no. Really?
Well, once again, let's give the panelists a round of applause. You know, I hope a lot of information that we need to share with you, and we only get this opportunity, it seems like, once a year. So moving right along with the program so that we can also get on to the raffle and everything, and then allow you to get out and enjoy a wonderful day. A couple of years back, we recognized, like I said, it's 14 years, and if you look in your program, you will see that probably about 5 or 7 years ago, we really wanted to recognize and elevate to our community a person that we felt would be representative of how we feel about our community and also the region that we live in. And so we came up with the Jewel Award. And this year, I want to just share with you and say a little bit something about the person who is the Jewel Award. I believe we have a little bio in it. But I've known this lady, met her, she came into my life, I came into hers back when I arrived here in 1988. In 1988, there used to be 2 organizations that were moving forward trying to help our youth and young adults on history and scholarships. And that was also, she was chairing, and her family had came up with the Rialto Black History Committee. I think I got it right. And we had another one. But over the years, she's not only been focused on the Rialto History Committee, this is a person who has been, I feel, a very valiant leader in our community, who has stepped up, been engaged, been involved in a lot of things. And if you have a chance to hear, sometimes we get the history that we want to hear, that's the good sound bites in the community, the write-ups and everything. But then sometimes you get from someone who will step up and always remind you of what went on in the trenches and how things really happened and why we are sitting here and recognizing and doing whatever was supposed to be the way that things should be done, and way I always say that it's destined that the Lord have you do it. So today, it is with great honor for me to recognize a person who has done a lot, been behind the scenes. She should be the community icon. Okay, I want to say that for Rialto. She should be the community icon, because I mean, I've had her on various committees, helping to guide me and giving me sage wisdom. One time, a gentleman told me in San Diego, he said, you know, you're going to go far because you, talking about me, you operate and deal with things with sage wisdom. And when I came here, I felt this lady, and she has her daughters, and she has her family, but she truly, I feel, has been my community icon because she operates with sage wisdom. Now, there's two in this room that give me guidance all the time, and it's not just to praise me, but set me straight, and set me in doing the right things. And I can handle it. I can handle it. And I like to say, I love them because, you know, we say what? Black don't crack. And I always tell them, and beige don't age. So would y'all please give a round of applause for a woman who I know is beige and she doesn't age, Miss Hattie Inge. Please, round of applause for my jewel of the Inland Empire. I don't know. I'm not going to try.
And she is a regional leader. I know. That's what happens when you're a powerhouse.
I'm telling you. That's all right. I know it'll take. You know, I want to give you this before, because I'm going to give Hattie the mic. I'm going to tell Hattie now, we're going to start at 3 minutes, and you got to conclude at 5. Okay. But on behalf of this effort, this organization, this effort in our community, that we've continued to push forward and make it happen regardless with all the obstacles, she exemplifies for me a person who also in our community continues to push forward and make it happen, and she doesn't whine, but she will set you straight. Okay? So with great honor, let me give this to you, present it to you, the Rialto Mayor's 2020 Jewel Award to Miss Hattie Inge at the 14th Annual Rialto State of the Women.
Thank
and that's
Thank you so much.
And I'll put it back in here for you.
Everything. I have my book. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that I received this award from our mayor, from our city and her committee. Thank you, citizens of Rialto, for supporting me almost 50 years. I had a stroke in 2018, and then I came home the end of 2018, and I just felt that God was showing me that I needed to slow down, because I said to the doctor, what happened? I had this stroke 30,000 miles in the air on American Airlines. Nobody, including myself, knew I had it till I woke up the next morning landing in Huntsville, Alabama. I couldn't move my right side. And my daughter that was with me, she said, Mom, come on. I said, I'm coming. And I just had a stroke. And she said, what? Here comes the pilot. Here comes the whole crew as the plane was on the ground. The pilot said, what do you mean you had a stroke? I said, well, I am medically trained with a license. I said, so couldn't help myself because I was asleep. And if I was awake, I would not have told you, because you would have landed this plane out in the middle of nowhere to keep me from dying on your plane. And I would have been seeing a horse doctor. They laughed. Well, you got to go. You got to go now to the doctor. I said, my daughter's meeting me. We got my luggage. I had a wheelchair. Oh, everybody was so helpful. And, of course, God was just with me, because I found out that in Huntsville, Alabama, this is the second best hospital in the United States for heart attacks and stroke. I was just blessed. And you know what? You don't have to wait in in the emergency room, the family. I looked, there were 6 ministers for my daughter's church. She works at Redstone Arsenal, one of them here. My son-in-law works there. And of course, everybody was there, and they just let you, the doctor says, is it okay? You have about 10 doctors. So it made the family comfortable. It made me feel comfortable that they were there. You stay in intensive care whether you want to or not, a week. And you have a doctor, or 2 doctors and 2 nurses. And so they use the latest equipment. And I progressed well. And they still call me. And they don't want you to come back to California because the doctors have a bad reputation. And I live here. They said, well, you call those doctors out there, they never call you. And blah, blah, blah. So God was just with me. And this lady here, when she told me about this award, I said to her, well, you know I've said some things about you that you don't like, may not like, but it's true. So and I said it. And so that's the way I am. So when I came here, I have 6 children, 1 boy, 5 girls. I said I went each school, and at that time, Faye Coates, she was interested in being the president. I just wanted to be on the working board. And so I told the teachers who I was. They started in the office. I wanted my children disciplined. And I had 1 child that already graduated, and the others started over with Miss Fanny from my church at Loveland. So they all knew my children. So I had still 5 more in school. And they said, what do you mean you want them disciplined? I said, just that. Is there any papers I need to sign? And they said, no. I said, we never heard of this. And so a lot of things happened in Rialto that I didn't think was right. Not just because of me, myself. I was raised in a Christian home, what you call a stepfather. My father died at the age of 2 or 3. So he raised me as his child. You were not allowed to call me stepchild. In fact, in those times, you don't say step. You marry that person, woman or man, you marry them with their family. So I appreciate that. And when I got here, I went again to council chambers. I wanted to know what I could do. I said, I'm a licensed nurse. I said, but I have the children, and I want to be involved. And the lady proceeded to tell me, well, I'm the black Jew of this council chamber. I said, okay. And so I said, what are you trying to say? I'm the white one? And she said, no, she's still living. And I worked, and I helped. And as I saw things, I brought my book with me and left it there. My mother had told me about, maybe you heard of it, about the little boy in the fence. Karen, oh, I have it here. The fence. You know, you go someplace, you may get angry, upset, because things are not going right. And it happens all the time, every day. And I didn't realize that there were 18 black families here, they said. Okay, well, I'm the 19th. And the rest was all Anglo-Saxons. So the man who I bought the house from, and I cried. I didn't like Rialto. And I had lived in Europe and Asia 17 and a half years with my family. So I didn't know anything about the United States past 19 years old. And I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I have joined almost every club in this city because I knew I wasn't wanted. And I stayed and tackled the job, including this building. And they would hide dates, places, because you were not wanted. And then as we went along, Mayor Grace Vargas, she was going to run for council. She asked me to help. I worked on her committee. First thing she had on the program was that I was assisting her. I said, no, take my name off, because they're not going to vote for you. They're not going to support you because I'm too vocal. And I was always going to make sure that I was right. I know how to talk to people. I was raised that way. My mother was a businesswoman. I was raised in a home with 2 businesses. My stepfather worked on the highway. But education is number 1. Respect is number 1 in a home and community. In my time, you cannot talk that to an adult. You cannot tell them things. So I have a problem with your child, my neighbor. Your child's in a store cursing you out. And I have stopped people, 6-year-old children. And my husband said, you're going to come home beat up. But you know what? Your kids really appreciate it. So I work very hard trying to make sure that your children, even though the committee is Rialto Black History, we give scholarships to anyone who apply and their paperwork is filled out correctly and that the board votes for them. And usually it's about 6 teachers who looks over the bios. So I encourage you. I don't know what else to say besides encourage you. Can't say I demand, because I don't know you that well, that you send your kids to school. You make sure you brought them here. You can get help. You ask God to take care of you, and he'll do his best. He don't want none of us to go without. He wants your children to be educated. And you have your children respect you. And you know, I realize there are people in each and every department in the city, the state, whatever, starting with the president, that you may not like, your children may not, but they'll do that respect. It doesn't take anything from me to respect you. And then I pray for you later or then. And this child, my mother had told me about this, and I found this about 2 weeks ago, because I'm traveling all the time, and now I have other bosses. You know, my husband's gone on, but then I have 6 kids who tell me what I should and shouldn't do. And it's hard sometimes, but I appreciate them, and that's their way of showing that love for me. And it's the fence is that there was a little boy, and I'm finished, Mayor, who he couldn't control his anger, and he often said and did things for which he was sorry later. In an attempt to help him, his father gave him a pail of nails, a hammer, and these words: each time you get angry about something or at someone, go and put a nail in the fence. At first, the little boy, he went and put the nail in the fence many times during the course of a day. As time went by, the young man began to see his anger go down. Okay? So as time went by, his outburst was even less. Eventually, his need to put a nail in the fence was far and in between. He was looking at who he was. Then he said, when the father saw this happen, the father again talked to the boy. This time he told him that every time you lose control and get angry, go and take a nail out the fence. As time went by, the boy realized that he had removed all the nails from the fence. When this happened, his father took him outside and stood him by the fence. He said, take a good look at that fence. What they saw was previously a perfect fence. Now the fence had so many holes in it, it wasn't worth anything. You know, top and bottom was whole. The father then turned to the son and told him that each hole represented pain and discomfort, and that he had inflicted upon someone else. He also told him that the holes were permanent and they could not be filled, rendering the fence useless, but nothing he could do with it. The little boy, our angry, destructive words directed toward, like the little boy rather, our angry and destructive words directed toward another or ourselves have the power to destroy or inflict emotional pain, which leaves damages and leaves holes in the fence, which your fence is your conscience. There is something that we can do. We can fill those holes with loving and compassionate words, which take away anger, hurt, and pain. We can restore the fence, which is our conscience, to wholeness. Began today to prayerfully and lovingly mend many fences, any fences that you have put holes in. So this is what I've tried to do here in Rialto. Every time I ran up against a wall, I would say, oh, thank you. You know, and you have now, I think you call them code enforcement. Well, the enforcers in Rialto in 1972, every other day there was somebody at my house telling me, you can't do this. You can't have 7 cars parked outside. You can't. And I'm saying, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for telling me. So there's one gentleman, I think maybe he retired last year, but he said, oh, well, you don't seem to be excited that I just told you you can't have 7 cars parked in front of your house, and you really can't have any on the lawn. I said, excited? I said, I don't understand. I said, I heard what you said. You said the fine is $500. And then he walked back down the walk a little bit, and he said, well, I just don't understand why you're not excited. You know, I am the code enforcer. I said, what am I to understand? I'm missing a point. And he turned around and looked, well, I'll just give you the tickets on these cars. I said, well, maybe that would be best. And he looked again, and then he said, I said, well, what's 7 cars? I didn't even have one. But they were parked in front of my house. And make a long story short, he pulled out his book, and then he changed his mind, and then he said, well, it seemed like you're just not worth the effort. I said, well, what you want me to do? You're telling me I have 7 cars. I don't even have one in the driveway. I don't have one out. So what, you know, it's left up to you. He was so angry. And so those are the kind of things that I was up against in Rialto. But I knew how from being in Alabama, and I look at the program, I'm always looking for my mother out there in the voters line. And then my last poll tax that I paid, $1.64 to vote, was in Hampton, Virginia, where I live. Thank you, and I thank you, Mayor, and it's so nice. Thank you. Okay. I want you to come over here. We got to take a picture with you. Right over here. Let's step over here first. And you have a number of several. Did I get the word?
Yes, there you go. Let me get out the box for you. Congratulations. I'm going to go on the other side after she takes that. Okay, if I can have everyone's attention, we're coming toward the closure. Let's be sure and give Hattie Ing another applause. And I just know she's a wonderful woman. She didn't let the stroke stop her. I went to MC the program for them at the Rialto Black History, and I said, "Where's Hattie?" They said, "She's been sick." I said, "Well, all the instructions I got were from her." So,
couldn't tell, right?
Couldn't tell. So now, I would just like to thank all of you for allowing me this opportunity to be here today to share this great program with you. I look forward to it every year, and I will not ever stop supporting this effort, no matter where I am. It's wonderful. I'm going to get going. I've got 1,200 young people from our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council learning how to be better people, and I need to go let them out real quick. But thank you, Mayor Robinson,
Okay,
and I'd like,
hug,
give me a hug.
Yeah,
No fake
all
hug.
clothing.
All clothing. And thank you, City Clerk Barbara Magee. And if you guys know what I know, you'll be quiet and get these baskets.
Let's give Aquanetta, better known as Q, a round of applause. And Aquanetta, Mayor Warren, so that you can lead off the drive. I told you, the Rialto Black History Committee, which you've chaired, needs money for the next year's scholarship. So you can lead the charge, because if you guys would like to know what Hattie said about me, just drop her $1 or $2 on the table. It'll help towards the scholarship program. Or be sure and show up next year. That's right. Yes, I do. No, and I really, all right, that's right. Okay, all right, and I will match your $250, Mayor Warren. All right, to the Rialto Black History Committee. Okay, you are more than welcome. We know how to bring it in. Get her crew. Eddie.
They don't mess with her, they said.
No, but really. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Now, as I turn the mic over to staff so that they can begin the raffles, a couple of things I would like to say, public service announcements that have been handed to me, and I want to, along with everyone, remind, don't forget, go by, see Joel. You need to have probably your cell phone, if you're so willing, to at least sign up, because they will transfer the information via the cell phone, so he'll be out there. I also want to acknowledge being a member of National Council of Negro Women, a legacy life member. The Pomona Valley section has passed us a flyer, and also I know with our own local Inland Empire section, we all are really on the census. And it's very essential, just like what Joel said earlier, it's important, essential that we all get counted and participate. And I won't give the spiel because we're going to be giving ours, but we are the largest state, and yet and still we continue to not show up and get counted. And the money we receive to the state of California for anything that we need to have to help all of us, if we're not there, then we won't get our lion's share of that money. So we need to remember that reason and then also it needs power and representation. That's why you do the census every 10 years. That's why you do the redistricting, and you get more congressional representatives. We should be ending up with more congressional representatives because we are one of the largest states in this nation. So National Council of Negro Women is holding their event on Friday, March 13th, and it'll be at Pomona College, 420 North Harvard, Claremont. time from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And so those of you who are on the West End, or if you would to East End, would love to travel over there, please go out and support them. The other one I will also give is here local. We will move from Women's Month to Senior Month in May. And woo-hoo! We generally travel to Sacramento in a big rally at the first week in May. This time it turns out it's going to be the Monday right after Mother's Day. So a small contingency of us will probably make it to Sacramento to participate. But we decided this year we would flip it, and we may go. But we will definitely make sure we bring it home, and we will have Sacramento coming to us on Friday, May 15th, in Rialto at our City Hall. We will hold our own senior rallies and everything, and ask that our representatives be there, and maybe we'll end up flying back with them to make sure they're back and be here on time. But anyway, so those are things. Please look for the flyer. It's in the room, and that's going to be another exciting event that will be underway. Now, a plug for the vendor. We talked about the vendors out there. We talked about health. I want to stand here and give you guys a testimony and let you know that November 1st, some of you knew I had a car accident. It was a total accident, total out hit and run. We rolled 8 times, 100 yards off the freeway, and everything when I came out, I still looked like, visible. I mean, nothing was broken, nothing. But over the period of time, the impact caused me to have my equilibrium off. And then one night, 12 days or 19 days later, I got up and I fell and I hit my back, and I had a lot of pain in my back. And it turned out I have a compressed disc in my back. But there's people out there that have products that really, I have to say, one in particular is Inner Soul. And that, just know it's health, it's holistic, but she's out there, Elena Gilbert, everyone's out there, but I used that product that she has out there. I think it's called Stress Maximum Relief 300. And which one? Relief Shea Butter, thank you. And while I was being told to take a whole bunch of ibuprofens, 800 milligrams, I told her I would give my testimony. I used that shea butter, and it gave me more relief and the ability to sleep. And so now, besides having the 3,000, I think she's bumped it up. A new product is 6,000 milligrams with shea. So I would encourage you guys, if you have aches and pains or you'd like to get rest at night from just normal arthritic conditions, you may want to go back and look at that. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to who's pulling the numbers. Oh, well, here we go. Miss Magee, come on up. Oh, your ticket, if you're looking for your ticket, it should be inside your bag. That may be where you would look. And we have a shout out to Bountiful Baskets. We've been having Miss Marilyn. Is Marilyn in the room? I don't know if I've seen her in here. But she left? Okay. But Bountiful Baskets. So, Barbara, you're going to come on up and do the drawing. And as she walks up here, when we were driving today this morning, my good friend and I, we noticed that every time we have the State of the Women, we never seem to have a sunny day. It's always chill, cold, may rain. But it dawned on me. I said, the sun sun's not out there because the sunshine is in here. So I just want to give y'all a round of applause, okay? Thank you. You're very radiant, so thank you. And Barbara, with that, come on up.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone, and you guys really look great, and thank you for your patience getting through this program. I appreciate it with my two friends up here, Mayor Aquanetta One and Mayor Deborah Robinson. Yeah. I'm trying to keep them on schedule because I have to get staff out of here, so y'all going to bear with me, and I'm trying to do that. So the first number we're going to call is going to be 165513. Do we have it? Raise your hand if you have 165513. Okay, I'm going once, going again. The next number that I have, 165495. Raise your hand. And actually, these baskets are donated by Mayor Robertson, myself, and the people that you see the sponsorships there. So you definitely want to thank her. 165443. And we are working on space for next year. We are definitely working on a larger space for next year, so you will be hearing about that coming in the next couple of months. The next number we have 165481. 165481. I understand. The next number we have 165438. Next number 165552. And on your way out, please go by and visit the business one last time. Next number 165529. One 165411.
There's 29 over there.
165411. Please keep your hand up if you have the number. Thank you. One 165439. 165439. One 165451. One 165489. One 165390. One 165581. 165581. 165517. One 65520. That's what I'm doing. One 65556. 165556. So if you're not going to, I was going to say, if you're not winning a basket, then I guess you have to go out there and buy yourself something from the vendors. If you want to leave with something, you have to go visit the vendors. The next number, 165440. Keep your hand up. I don't want to do the last number. 165459. Anybody have that one? Okay, I'll go to the next number. 165509. One 165527. One 165453. What? Okay, she left. 165574. 165574. Not here. One 65362. How many more baskets does she have? 4. We have 5 baskets left. 165400. 165460. How many more? 3. 165401. 165401. One. 165476. One 65465. Thank you. So hope to see everyone next year at 2021 State of the Women. And on your way out, could you please go by and visit the vendors? Thank you.
Good evening, good afternoon. Look forward to seeing you in 2021. Thank you. Got it all?